In perhaps the most exciting news, at least for me, coming out of the All-Star break, was that the league announced in 2025 they'll be having what they're calling the Four Nations Faceoff, which is basically a mini World Cup, if you will, consisting of Canada, USA, Finland, and Sweden. They will have a little tournament. Instead of the All-Star game next year, we'll be having this Four Nations Face-Off with those four countries. And best on best, guys. This is pinnacle hockey 101 to me. When you get the best from each country on teams, you see spectacular play. I fell in love with international play during the 1996 World Cup, where Team USA famously beat a absolutely stacked Canadian team to win the World Cup in 96. Probably one of the best USA teams ever assembled at any international competition. If you're young or it was before your time or before you were a hockey fan, I definitely recommend checking out some of the 1996 World Cup of Hockey highlights or full games. You could find it out there on the YouTube. Amazing hockey, a great era of hockey, and something that we've sorely missed, in my opinion, since the NHL withdrew from the Olympics foolishly. I understand all of the concerns of the owners with, you're paying these guys millions of dollars and then they're out there risking injury during these games that don't necessarily benefit you directly. And I think the league wanted some revenue from it. I don't know. There's a lot of politics and nonsense that goes into it. And anytime you're talking about sports and big money and potentially guys getting injured. But I do think that the international competitions, especially the Olympics, are marketing gold for the league at large. I mean, in prime time, especially if some of these games are shown, I think a lot of eyeballs that aren't normally watching hockey will tune in to see these international competitions. But it's starting off, they're just dipping their toe in the water. The Four Nations face-off, Canada, USA, Finland, Sweden. The games are rumored to be played. I don't think it's been confirmed yet. The rumor is that the games will be played in Montreal and Boston. So I'm hoping that those cities are true. They are both drivable from the lovely state of New Jersey, and I will be super interested in attending some of these live. These things don't happen all too often, and when they do, they're special moments. And the most exciting thing about it, I suppose, is that Team USA could be absolutely filthy with some of the talent the Americans have in the league right now. I mean, you're talking about the Tkachuk brothers, the Hughes brothers, Austin Matthews, Connor Hellebuck, and the list goes on and on. The roster is going to be absolutely lethal, and USA could win any of these tournaments now. World Cup, Olympics. For the foreseeable future, Team USA will have a completely insane, stacked roster that could go head-to-head with the juggernaut that is Canada. People have to realize hockey is religion in Canada, and these kids are basically born on skates, and there's like hockey factories and hockey farms all over Canada. USA is slowly catching up. While it will never be as popular in America as it is in Canada, it just can't be. The gap is kind of closing over time, and we're starting to see some studs born in America, born in the good old US of A, and including our own Jackie boy. And now we're going to see on the international stage who's the best. Not to get political, this is definitely not a political show, but I do think when you're having these tournaments, to not have Russia involved is kind of strange to me. Russia's always been one of the upper echelon, hockey countries, and it just seems weird to exclude them because of political stuff. I don't know all the background to it, and why, what do the players have to do with the country and the war and all this stuff. I don't like it. I think in the 2000, it may have been the last World Cup or maybe it was an IIHF tournament where they had something where it was like they refused to allow them to wear the flag. So I think it was like Olympic athletes from Russia or something like that. If you want to do something like that, I could accept it. Just let the guys play, and everyone knows it's Russia, but, you're calling it something else, fine. I'm okay with all that stuff, semantics and nonsense if you don't want to show their flag for whatever reason. But I do think to exclude Russia, perennial hockey powerhouse, is kind of silly. And if I was a Russian player in the league, I'd be pretty pissed. So, in this Four Nations face-off next year, could be one of the last times we could see Alex Ovechkin in international play, and he's not going to be in the tournament because of a war going on. Seems silly to me. Seems like a reach. You know, I don't want to get too much into this, but it just seems like organizations often try to bend over backwards to cater to the crowd or the people that might be coming with pitchforks, and I don't know. Seems silly to me. I wish they just did like Olympic athletes from Russia or whatever you want to call it, so that guys like him could play, Kucherov. So we're going to be robbed of seeing all these guys on the international stage, and it's unfortunate for the players as well. I'd be pretty pissed. My country's involved in a war, so I can't play in a international hockey tournament featuring the best players in the world. Seems kind of silly, but that's a whole nother topic for another time. But we will see Canada, USA, Finland, Sweden. And the press conference from the league came out. NHL Four Nations Faceoff will feature international tournament play between NHL players from Canada, Finland, Sweden, and the United States. The 2025 NHL Four Nations Faceoff will take place in February 2025 in 2 North American cities, one in Canada and one in the United States. NHL All-Star Weekend will not be held during the season. The Faceoff will consist of a total of 7 games played over a 9-day period from February 12th to 20th, along with 2 designated training practicing days. Each team will be comprised of 23 NHL players, 20 skaters, and 3 goalies, selected by each national association: Hockey Canada, Finnish Ice Hockey Association, Swedish Ice Hockey Association, and USA Hockey. Players must be under an NHL contract for the 2024-2025 season and on an NHL roster as of December 2nd, 2024. All roster announcement dates will be made by the NHL and NHLPA, with each of the participating national associations selecting its initial 6 players this summer prior to selecting its complete rosters later in the year. All games in the Four Nations Faceoff will be played in accordance with NHL rules. Each team will play 3 tournament games in a traditional round-robin format under the following point system: 3 points for a win in regulation, 2 points for a win in overtime shootout, 1 point for a loss in overtime shootout, and 0 points for a loss in regulation time. The 2 teams with the best tournament record will then advance to a 1-game final. The overtime format for round-robin games will be a 3-on-3 sudden death for a 10-minute period, followed by a 3-round shootout. The overtime format for the 1-game final will be full-strength sudden death through successive 20-minute periods until one team scores. So this is going to be an absolutely phenomenal tournament. I'm super pumped for it. I attended a pre-tournament game in 2016 featuring Team USA and Team Canada at Nationwide Arena, where the Columbus Blue Jackets play in Columbus, Ohio. Absolutely phenomenal time. I wanted to make it one of the later games, but my schedule didn't line up, and I forget what cities they were in. But the Columbus one was a feasible drive for me and a couple of the boys, so we drove out there, and it was awesome. Great time to see all the stars on the ice. And I look forward to this Four Nations Face-Off, and then subsequently the Olympics and the World Cup. So with this news, with the Four Nations Face-Off coming next year, the following year in 2026, the NHL players are returning to Olympic hockey in Milan, Italy. 2026, the NHL is back for the Olympics, and then they're going to get on the schedule of every 2 years. There's going to be an international tournament. So Olympics in 2026, the World Cup is officially coming back in 2028, and then we will be in the Olympics for 2030, and then I'd imagine, just keep going like that. World Cup 2032, 2036 Olympics, so on and so forth, so that every 2 years we will either see the NHL players in the Olympics or the World Cup, and then the years in between, I'd imagine they'll continue with the All-Star Game, which, the All-Star Game has lost its luster for me a long time ago. Much rather see the international play. There's really no comparison. International team play trumps all. If we just take a look at New Jersey Devils history of the elite players over the years that we've had that have represented their country in international play, be it the World Cup or the Olympics. For Canada, obviously, Martinbrodeur, the greatest goaltender of all time, has represented Canada millions of times in World Cups and Olympics. Scottstevens, the hard-hitting captain, one of the greatest defensemen in NHL history, has represented Team Canada, as well as the silky smooth Scott Niedermayer. All guys that have worn the Team Canada sweater in international play, representing their countries. And then when you look at Team USA, we've had guys like Bill Guerin, going back to that 96 World Cup. Check it out. Some really great stuff. Brian Giunta has represented Team USA. Scott Gomez has represented Team USA. Zach Parise has represented Team USA. And Jamie Langenbrunner captained Team USA in the 2010 Olympics And wow, what a great run for USA. That was foiled by Sid and Team Canada, but that was another memorable Olympics. And then we've had Patrick Eliash and Peter Sikora representing the Czech Republic. And there's some other guys as well, but these are the quick ones that come to my mind right away. Great to see your favorite NHL team guys representing their countries on the big stage, international play. Can't wait for it to happen again. We're now 1 year away from this four-nation face-off. And the most recent time there was a World Cup in 2016, the only guys we had representing the Devils were Corey Schneider and Kyle Palmieri. Both played for Team USA in that tournament, which was not a great showing for Team USA. But very fun to watch nonetheless, and I expect these international tournaments in the next few years to really draw, especially with how good I believe Team USA will be, will bring in some new hockey fans and expose people to our great game. And especially now with the speed and the skill, I think it's a better time than ever to showcase these guys on the international stage and hopefully help grow the sport. As we all know, hockey's nowhere near as popular as most of the other sports in America, and things like this will go a long way to show people how great and exciting hockey can be. Like, comment, subscribe, and all that jazz. Until next time, friends, let's go Devils.